Rosa Bonheur was arguably the most famous female artist from the 19th century, and the animal painter born in 1822 has some things on her resume to back that up. When her painting The Horse Fair went on a tour through England in 1855, Queen Victoria requested to meet the artist and have a private viewing of this enormous work measuring some 2.5 by 5 meters or 8 by 16 feet. A few years later, in 1864, the French Empress Eugénie invited her for lunch at the Palace of Fontainebleau, together with Emperor Napoleon III. And the next year the Empress traveled to Bonheur's castle to award her with the Legion of Honor distinction. She was only the 9th woman in French history and the first female artist to become a knight. And 3 decades later, when she was 72 years old, she would become the first female officer of the Legion of Honor, an even higher distinction. And all that for a woman who was supposedly a lesbian, something that was completely unacceptable for women in 19th century France. For 40 years she openly lived together with a woman, and when her partner died, she started a relationship with a woman more than 3 decades her junior. Here are some portraits of her, and at first sight she seems a normal, lovely woman. But she had cut her hair short, something very unusual for a woman, and during her life, women could not even go out in public wearing pants, and so she had to apply for an exception to the police to be able to wear trousers in public. She didn't let herself be portrayed in men's clothes, but she did a lot of things that were typically only reserved for men, like smoking cigars. Just as an example, it was a French custom at parties that a Frenchman would retreat to a separate chamber to smoke after dinner, and she was the type of woman who would join the men in that room. It was not so much because she wanted to be a man, but she strongly identified with the freedom and status that only men had in her society. She believed that she earned her success through her own hard work, and even though she inspired many future female artists, she believed that women did not deserve special consideration. She reportedly said, "Women's rights, women's nonsense." In the tradition of successful artists like Franz Snijders and Edwin Landseer, Bonheur was an animal painter. Cows, horses, sheep, dogs or a stag, they were all painted with great precision. To understand how Bonheur became a successful animal painter, we have to look at her youth a bit more. First of all, she came from an artistic family whom supported her passion. As a young girl, she was much better in drawing than writing and reading. So, her mother stimulated her to read and write by letting her draw a different animal for each letter of the alphabet. And, according to Rosa Bonheur, this was where her love for animals came from. But there must also have been something in her genes already, as her sister and brother also became animal painters, and her other brother an animal sculptor. Now her father was also a painter, though not as successful as Rosa would become, and he believed in good education for both boys and girls. But whereas her brothers could attend some of the prestigious Parisian art academies, those academies were not open to aspiring female artists. So Father Bonheur took it upon himself to educate his daughter. And Rosa was determined, as she frequented the countryside near Paris to paint all sorts of animals by herself. She went many times to the Louvre to copy works from famous artists, and she studied animal anatomy and osteology to get a much deeper understanding of animals. So at age 19, Rosa Bonheur made her debut at the prestigious Paris Salon, the largest art exhibition in the world. As you can see in this image, it was not easy to stand out from the numerous other artworks that filled the walls of every room. But she won her first minor award in 1845, and 3 years later, in 1848, she exhibited this work, Oxen of the Cantal breed, and this would be her real breakthrough at age 26. She not only won a gold medal for it, something quite special, but she also immediately got a commission from the French state. It would be for this painting, Blowing in the Nivernais, which was supposed to go to the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Lyon. But when she exhibited it in 1849, it received so much good feedback that the French state decided to send it to the much more prestigious Musée du Luxembourg for contemporary art. From then on, life was good for Bonheur. In 1853 she made her next big impression when she painted The Horse Fair. It was a huge success at the Paris Salon that year, and whereas many other great works usually had their share of people that liked it and those who disliked it, this work received praise from all sides. Somewhat ironically, but telling of the times at which she painted it, is that one influential art critic praised it by writing, "It's really a man's painting." The painting was bought for the incredible sum of 40,000 French francs by the famous art dealer Ernest Gambart, and this deal also included the reproduction rights of this painting. Gambart took the painting on a lucrative international tour through England and Scotland, easily earning his investment back. This tour obviously boosted her popularity abroad, and as mentioned before, earned the interest of Queen Victoria, who would become a lifelong customer of Bonheur. One of the benefits of her success at the Paris Salon was that from 1853 onwards her works are admitted to the Paris Salon without first having to be judged by a jury, a special benefit that only few artists enjoyed. Interestingly, however, is that her last submission to the Paris Salon would be 2 years later. Her fame now made it possible to sell her works before they were exhibited at the Salon. Only 12 years later, she exhibited 10 works at the 1867 World Fair in Paris. But, to her disappointment, she only won a second-class medal and she decided to no longer submit her works to the Salon. The consequence of that was that her status in France substantially decreased. Her works were mainly selling in England and the United States, and she was now living in a large castle outside Paris, where she had her own mini-zoo, including rabbits, birds, squirrels, sheep, monkeys, horses, a gazelle, and even a lion. One art critic summarized the French sentiment as follows: "Since her adoption by the English, who have made her fortune, we have seen none of her paintings in the French exhibitions, and not even in sales." Some people considered her a deserter by no longer being interested in the French audience and market, but instead selling her soul to some foreigners. But over time, even the French have embraced her again. Nowadays, her artistic talents and determination are appreciated by many again, and her status as one of the best female artists who ever lived has been restored. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story about the life of an incredible woman and artist whose works are now in some of the major museums around the world. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and feel free to share your thoughts about Bonheur or any future artist or topic you would like me to share on this channel. I always enjoy reading your feedback. Thanks for watching.